Okay. The clock says 6 o'clock. We'll call this meeting to order, starting with the roll call. Am I right?
Mitch Glines, Planning and Zoning.
San Diego Township.
Francine Larson, Blue Hill Township.
Steve Demmules, Palmer Township.
Terrence Van Dyke, Clear Lake Township.
Bruce Abel, Big Lake Township.
Todd Mulvaney, Indian Township.
Kathy Kozlowski, Haven Township.
Gary Gray, Sherman County Commissioner.
George Kennedy, Assistant Sherman County Attorney.
I'm to ask all of the members here to make sure their mic is on, and when you're speaking, to please lean into the mic. This meeting is being recorded, both audio and visual, and the results of the meeting, the Planning Commission is recommending body. The results of the meeting will go to the township, or beg your pardon, county board at its March 18th, 2025 meeting at 9 a.m. All comments from tonight will be forwarded to the county board. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? If so,
Motion to approve.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 I'd just like it, these minutes were awesome. They really were. That was, a lot went on at that last
Yeah,
meeting.
indeed, indeed.
Very, very detailed.
We'll pass that message along to Carrie.
And I know you helped, but I mean, that's a lot.
Oh, it was a.
I fell asleep twice.
That was a big
No,
meeting.
Just joking.
And are there any changes to the agenda?
No, they're not.
Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Agenda item number 1, Carol Zimmerman, property owner of C. Vetter Lane, and Anthony Zimmerman requests an interim use permit for an occasional special event. The PID is 45-00021-2405, address 15913 41st Street, Becker, Section 21, San Diego Township, on 5 acres in an agricultural district. Mark, it's in your bag.
Yep. And just item of house cleaning. We have 2 items on related to the Zimmermans. This is the interim use permit, and then we have a conditional use permit amendment. So they are separate items. Will require a separate action. And so I just wanted to make sure that's clear. And we're just looking to complete the public hearing for this record. So I'll go ahead and give the board my staff update. So the board packet included those items A through D. San Diego Township did hear this request, but made the following statement: we will go with the county's suggestion. So they didn't make an official recommendation of approval or denial. They're saying that they're going to go with what the county decides after this process. I received no other comments from other agencies, and this is a staff report. In 2013, the applicant received a conditional use permit to operate a. Yep, that would have been a long time ago. 2023, the applicant received a conditional use permit to operate a farm-related business, small winery, with 18 conditions for the property. Condition number 2 stated of the CUP, this CUP does not grant authority for the property to be utilized for a venue for occasional special events, rural tourism, weddings, other similar uses. In the county zoning ordinance, those uses would require a separate permit from the county. In August 2024, a complaint was filed against the subject property, Boulder Creek Wine Bar, indicating that they were not adhering to the conditions of the permit, specifically referencing issues with live music, food services, days and hours of operation. Complaint also stated that on September 21st, 2024, the applicant advertised on Facebook a one-day event called Sip and Shop. A search of the business website found BoulderCreekWineBar.com, confirmed along with Facebook posting. Sip and Shop events were held on June 1st, 2024 and September 21st, 2024. The descriptions of these events on Facebook were annual shopping events with many vendors selling various goods. Hours listed for these events were 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. On September 6, 2024, zoning staff issued a notice of violation to the applicant, informing them that they were in violation of 4 conditions of their CUP, 1, 2, 4, and 10. The applicant responded to the notice of violation, made modifications to their final event in September, and stated moving forward they're going to work to amend their CP request and ask for an IEP to allow them to host special events. According to the applicant's written narrative, Board Packet B, the applicant is requesting to use their 5-acre residential homestead parcel to host up to 2 special events a year, one in the spring and one in the fall. The proposed dates are Saturday after Memorial Day and the first Sunday in September. Hours of operation 1 to 5 p.m. The event would include 10 to 15 vendors selling crafts and boutiques from their yard or property. The number of guests would be limited to the capacity of parking for the wine bar. Currently, it is permitted for 20 vehicles. The following request is going to ask for up to 51 vehicles. People working the event would be Carol Zimmerman, Carol and Tony Zimmerman, possibly their 2 children. No parking would be permitted on the public road. The applicant has provided a site plan calling out the proposed parking, driveway areas, operational areas for the event. Using the site plan provided by the applicant, there are 51 parking spaces available. And if you reference the county zoning ordinance, section 17, subdivision 2.1, and that is our parking standards. We don't have a specific reference for public events like this, but similar uses like assembly events, the minimum requirement is 1 parking for each 3 visitors. Under that provision of our ordinance, the site plan submitted by the applicant, according to our ordinance, would provide space for up to 150 visitors. Zoning ordinance received 34 written comments as of February 11th, 2025, related to this IEP and the following CUP amendment. A copy of those written comments were shared with the Planning Commission and have been added to the public record for this IEP. Any additional comments that were received after the mailing of this packet, which was February 11th, 2025, were emailed to the board. So they received those yesterday. And then we did receive 2 comments after the February 19th deadline, and we will look at reading those into the public record during the public hearing process. With this, staff has provided some recommended conditions. You can see those 1 through 16. We did leave a space for discussion for the board related to maximum number of people using the property at one time. I think some of that will be generated, some decisions will be potentially generated during the discussion with the board. And staff has provided some staff responses to the findings, and we're going to ask the board to make those findings after the closure of the public hearing and when they prepare to make a recommendation to the county board. So with that, Ike, I'm going to turn it back to you. And
Thank you. Are there any questions from the members here for the staff?
Yes. So what is the procedure of zoning for violations and revocation of a CUP?
Okay.
I mean, it seems that,
An IEP
it
are-
seems 4 seems to be excessive.
for
4 violations.
Oh, okay. So procedurally, I mean, we issue, Mitch, how many CPs and IEPs did we do last year? 22. So last year in 2023, we did 22 CPs and IEPs. And majority of our CPs and IEPs, we never really hear anything else about them. And from time to time, we have a situation where someone may violate the terms of those conditions of that permit. County's past practice has been when we receive a notice of noncompliance or an issue, we investigate, verify if it's valid or not, and then we issue, a notice of violation, and we provide corrective actions. And the corrective actions on CPs and IEPs specifically can be, just fix what you're doing. If it's a mining operation, they're going too close to the boundary, they got to fix that, and they fix it, and we move on. When someone, as a practice, we try to work with property owners to obtain voluntary compliance. And voluntary compliance through our enforcement procedures basically indicates 1, 2, 3 strikes, notices of violation. And those notices of violation will say, all right, you have X amount of time to take these corrective actions. And if the person fails to make those corrective actions, we proceed through that enforcement process. You know, we get to our third notice, and on CEPs and IEPs, if I get to my third notice and the person is not making any voluntary effort, I'm not getting voluntary compliance, then historically, we will then generate a case and bring it back to the Planning Commission. So county would initiate the action to the Planning Commission and eventually the county board, asking for a review of our findings, kind of review of what we, interpreted as violations, the things that they have done to either correct or not correct those violations. And then following that meeting, the board would then have the ability to, revoke, recommend, county board could revoke the permit, and this board, I should start there. This board has the ability to recommend revocation of the permit, modification of the permit, additional conditions to try and mitigate maybe what the nuisance was, or they can do nothing and say it's fine. So that is kind of the overall enforcement process that we would take with a CEP, IEP. County board would then make the final action. So it's common for us to try to work with an applicant to correct the violation. So if you go back to the staff comments in the staff report on this CUP, we basically identified where the violations were. You have these violations, what are you going to do about it? Upon issuing that notice of violation on September 6th, the applicant did contact us shortly thereafter. I don't know if I have a date exactly when they responded to us, but it was within days, basically indicating, okay, we understand what the violations are, what the issues are. Could we amend this permit? And that is always an applicant's opportunity, and that is kind of towards that voluntary path of compliance. So that is how we typically would proceed with, a violation of any conditional or interim use permit, is try to find voluntary compliance with them. And then, should we fail, we go down the process that's established in section 18 of our ordinance for revocation or modification of the permit. So the applicant has chosen, took voluntary path and said, I'm going to request these changes. And if you think about the duration of their existing permit, their events wrap up, I believe it's end of September or Labor Day. I'm not certain. I could look at the permit, but it's towards that end.
Mhm.
So we got this notice in August. We responded, they responded, and they've since made the applications to make changes to their permit.
Okay.
I know it's kind of in-depth response, but I wanted to make sure it
No,
was clear.
it's good to know. It's good to know.
Because there's been very,
Well, because I don't recall anything coming in front of this board for getting rid of something.
last time it was probably maybe back in that 2013 or even earlier. I've done it before, but yes, it typically is reserved when we really have major, we're not working, we can't find resolutions, they're not working towards resolutions, and we just need to abolish, or eliminate the permit based on conflict, that we can't resolve.
And you're also somewhat, you have to be reactive only when you hear a violation. I mean, you're not able to schedule on-site visits.
Well, we do for some of our complicated so if we did 23 CPs, IEPs in 2023, or whatever that number was, we've issued hundreds of IEPs and CEPs over the years. The record is that, people generally comply and stay within those rules. Or we have, a little back and forth. Some of our projects do require additional monitoring. Mitch gets to go out and look at mines, annually, for things where we can't maybe put it back if we have an environmental issue. You think about a gravel mine, it's pretty hard to put back something that they really destroyed, or, resolve those items. So we may do, regular inspections on those. We also, when issues arise, we monitor things closer. So if I had a site where there's a complaint that arises, and we know we've had problems with them staying in compliance with the permit, we, build it in there that we have the ability to do follow-up inspections, and we have ability to, kind of come and do those inspections randomly. So that is, something that we have, at our, in our capacity to do. But as far as, regular scheduled inspections of every CP and IEP that we issue, that's not something we have done as a practice.
Yeah. Noted, yeah.
Yeah,
It'd be very cumbersome.
the hope is that, when people get their permits in their businesses, and they work within those and they have success.
Sure. All right. Thanks, Mark.
Any other questions from the board? That, I'll ask the applicants to come to the podium. State your name and address.
We're Carol and Tony Zimmerman, 15913 41st Street, Becker.
Are you aware of the 16 conditions?
We are aware.
And you agree to comply if this interim permit passes?
We will absolutely agree to follow whatever you have to say. Just a note that after 1 year of us being open, we had this idea of having music and food, and then, of course, we'd have to increase our capacity in order to pay for the music and food. So Mark has been so good to work with and follow up with us. It's been very good working with him. But I called him, and we had a very in-depth conversation, and he asked us a lot of questions. And we were saying that it went beautifully that first year. And we asked to do those things, like the music and the food, and increase the capacity as well as that interim use permit. And our understanding was that that was something we could go ahead and do. So we did, because we got like a verbal okay, and we were told if there's a complaint, it will go to him, and he will let us know. And I know that the complainant has gone over and above. What would that be the average complaint?
As soon as we got the complaint too, like, the thing touches on here, we shut down. We didn't have any more music. One musician actually showed up, and the only way we were communicating with him was through Facebook Messenger, and he never checked his Facebook. So he actually showed up to play that day. We told him he could not, and we actually paid him still out of pocket, because that's what you do. And he went on his way, and we didn't have music because we had already received a letter from the county stating this. So, and that's why we're, literally here to try to get it in writing.
And whatever you decide, we will follow to the T, and I promise you that.
Any questions from the board for the applicant?
Mr. Chair?
Sir.
Music performances, are they amplified? Are they acoustic? How much noise gets generated?
So what we had were like 1 or 2 people playing guitar or just keyboard. And where it's at is like on the back side of our property. So it's like where they're playing to the road is, he might have a picture, but it's the house, our yard, the pond, which has a water fountain going, so it's running water, and then the woods, and then the road. And we have many times taken what is it called? An ampermeter, and he'll go out, and we'll be on the phone with just like my music that I have, like my little speaker that I have, and he will have it out on the road to check to make sure that it meets and it doesn't even read. When the 4-wheelers go by is when it reads. So there's no sound at the road.
But the question was, is it amplified? That was the question.
So some of it is and some of it
Yeah,
isn't.
some people-
Sometimes they just have the guitar.
Some people did, and some people
But some
did
people
not.
will put in a speaker, but we're very conscientious about keeping it kind of in the background.
So it is amplified.
Some of it is. We would like it to be available for us. Mhm.
And if I could just make sure that We have two permits, so, so part of this, so this is the occasional special event, where they're asking for 2 events a year to be able to have people come out to the property. So there will be some, of course, some conflating of the two items, because we're dealing with them, sequentially. But I just want to make sure that the board, we're gonna ask you for a recommendation on the special events, so.
Wouldn't the special event also, though, segue into what's already been happening? Because wouldn't it kind
That's
of
why,
replicate
that's why I
those
kind of
events?
indicated that they will, I just want to make sure, so when we're discussing this, that there are questions kind of, about this event and how this, how their proposal to host these events will function, and how, in relation to the property. Of course, the things that, connected to the overall property are part of this conversation, but I just want to make sure that the board and the audience knows that we're dealing with, we have these two items.
Thank you.
I have a question now, on their, I guess you'd call it business plan. It states that it would include several vendors such as crafts and boutiques. Was there any discussion with, food vendors?
At the Sip and Shop? Is that what you're?
Yes, ma'am.
We didn't have any food, and we didn't plan on having food at that, because it's just a 4-hour window there, so no food at that event. Or music, yeah.
There was a mention in one of the comments that the board received that said there was a barbecue truck there.
But not at the Sip and Shop.
That was at a normal weekend.
That was a regular, like,
was-
wine bar weekend.
That was just a regular
Yeah.
weekend.
I see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Mark, to clarify, this is only about the Sip and Shop.
The
All we're
two-
discussing.
Yep, those two, okay, so they're asking for 2 occasional special events in September and June. So that's what we're focusing on for this request.
Well, if there are no further questions, we'll open a public hearing. Any comments need to be limited to 3 minutes. You would step up to the podium, please, and state your name and address.
Mr. Chair, if I could just interject really quick, because we did receive 2 comments that came after. We emailed everything. I wanted to make sure that the full record is
Thank you.
part of this. So I'm going to pull up right now those 2 public comments that were received after we sent out all the additional public comments to the board. Odds are if I don't do this now, I may forget about it as we proceed through. This email is from Kelly Fisher. I'm writing in favor of Boulder Creek to amend their CEP and IEP. I live on 37th Street, just north of Boulder Creek. I have visited Boulder Creek a few times in the past summer with my family, friends, and have enjoyed afternoons relaxing in a peaceful environment. I've found the Zimmermans to be pleasant, knowledgeable in their products. They ensure everyone who spends time at their establishment enjoys themselves and are always looking to, bring the community together. While I was there, I met neighbors I did not know prior. I have come to enjoy the company, music at appropriate volumes for the space in the venue. People were able to still have clear conversations sitting near it. Services were timely. They offered unique environment and able to find that you're not able to find anywhere else. You can even take a stroll around their landscaping yard to enjoy the nature. By adding IEP, this will allow Boulder Creek to continue bringing community together and support small businesses. By supporting small businesses in this way, it'll help to get the word out of what they have to offer, and will create returning customers for the small business in the future. As far as amending the CEP, it would be lovely to be able to enjoy a fresh appetizer while sipping on a glass of wine or cider. I'm hopeful that they'll be able to have additional days this summer. If you have not spent any time here, I'd highly recommend it, highly recommend that you gather your family and friends on a weekend afternoon to see what it's all about. You'll not be disappointed, and you'll see why this positive comment has a positive impact on our neighborhood. Kelly Fisher. I did request her address, and I didn't receive it in between the time of the public hearing. So with our public comments, as I received them, I also asked for, their their mailing address, just like we'll do with the public tonight. And the second one was from Sarah Anderson. Husband and I, Lucas, and I live directly to the south of Boulder Creek Wine Bar in San Diego. We're writing in support of Boulder Creek Wine Bar and their proposed CUP amendment. I'm going to stick to the facts as much as I can. I live directly south of them. We have never heard music or loud noise coming from the property. We do hear a lot of dirt bikes, four-wheelers, et cetera, coming from the street, which we know are not them. My point being, music every other weekend ends at 5 p.m. in the summer does not create a nuisance at all. There are a lot of complaints about increased traffic on the road. I've never witnessed anyone driving risky or speedy coming from their house. When the wine bar is open, the family complained about the increased traffic. We'll put 4 people on a single seat four-wheeler and complain about the safety. I'm concerned that Boulder Creek is becoming far too much of a bar and not a farm winery. I have been to many bars in my life, and drinking outside on a patio at said bar. Boulder Creek is nothing like those bars. Boulder Creek is a quiet, relaxing place for people to enjoy, People go there to talk, listen to music, relax with some good wine and company. Nobody is loud and obnoxious. Boulder Creek has a sense of community in Little San Diego, and that we are missing before, a place for people to go talk without typical Minnesota bar settings. People bring their families there on Saturdays after church or Sundays after church. Spend time together. For people to get to know their neighbors. Lucas and I fully support Boulder Creek Wine Bar, Carol and Tony, to do with it. If I can ask one thing, is at tomorrow's meeting, if you don't let emotions either for or against Boulder Creek to sway your way in making this decision. So, I don't have that address listed here either. So like I said, most people, so I do have their addresses, I do request them. And for the completeness of a public record, we take in that information. If they don't provide an address, I will ask for that. These two came in late today, and I just didn't get a chance to get that addressed. And I would just make one more note about the comments. I said 34 of them, and that includes those two. I didn't make a distinction for or against. It's part of the public record. The board has had an opportunity to kind of see that. So it's kind of a split between the two. But we're getting positive or negative comments on this request. And the request, and people commented on both CPs and IEPs and different methods. So thank you for letting me get those two additional things into the record.
Yeah, thank you. Is there anyone out there wishing to speak on this issue?
My name is Tim Sockery, and I live at 15940 41st, or 15940 41st Street, right across from the bar. It's unfortunate now that we just told that it's 3 minutes, because we've got many hours into this, and we were told that we had 5 minutes to speak, so we'll do the best we can, but we're gonna have to cut out some things that are very important, so I just wanted to let the board know that. My name is Tim Sockery. I live on 41st Street, across the street from east of the bar. There are 2 agenda items tonight, but they are intertwined. It is crucial to state during this IUP discussion that the Zimmermans were granted the CUP with 18 conditions by this board for a small winery, as recorded in the April 20th minutes when they were asked if they understood and could comply with all 18 conditions. Both Anthony and Carol Zimmerman confirmed. The Zimmermans have blatantly failed to comply with approximately 11 of the conditions from their opening day. I have provided the board with a detailed letter and pictures proving how they violated the CUP from day one. That will be discussed in detail during the CUP public comment. The Zimmermans received a notice of violation for failure to comply with the conditions of the CUP, which were obviously never planned to follow. The notice of violation states cease offering food trucks, which should have stated stop offering food, live music, and special events from your property. Failure to bring your property into compliance with the conditions for your CUP may result in revocation of the CUP by the county, civil court action through the Sherburne County Attorney's Office.
Condition number 2 states, the CUP does not grant authority to this property to be utilized as a venue for occasional special events. Several special events have been held without a permit. Just to name a few, one was the Cool School Cafe, took place on Tuesday, August 20th, followed by a sip and shop on September 21st, 2024. Despite receiving a letter of violation on September 6th, the event proceeded as planned. See pictures 2, 4, and 12. The second letter of violation should have been issued. However, Sherburne County Planning Zoning once again failed to enforce that condition. Are you aware the establishment was operating even before a CUP was even granted? For example, a sip and shop event was held on December 3rd, 2022, prior to the CUP approval. See picture 5. Again, because these items are so intertwined pertaining to the bar, and a board member already brought it up, condition number 8, days of operation shall be 2 weekends a month, first and third weekend, Memorial Day through the first weekend in October. They have 3 to 4 events each month. See picture 1, 3, 4, and 6. The Zimmermans are above the law and of course do nothing and do anything they want. The board should feel very betrayed as they have been. Again, look at the documentation. It is also troubling that enforcement of these conditions appear to fall onto the neighbors. Despite repeated inquiries mirroring Commissioner Gary Gray's concern, we have yet to receive clarity on who is responsible for ensuring compliance. To date, no disciplinary action has been taken other than initial notice of violation. None. Numbers taken directly from the December 4th letter of the county estimate 100 to 150 guests per special event. How is accommodating 180 vendors and guest vehicle trips per event an asset to a quiet residential area and provides yet another weekend of this neighborhood nuisance? Additionally, the County Planning and Zoning Committee raised a specific concern communications. They stated they updated site plan shows a significant amount of additional parking in close proximity to the neighboring properties. A special point of concern is a northern parking area. Please specify how you intend to mitigate the potential.
Sir, may I interrupt? Your 3 minutes are up.
Yeah.
Thank you for your comments.
It probably doesn't hurt just to acknowledge if you did submit something for the public record, just make that, so if you submitted a written comment, when you kind of introduce, just let the board know that you've submitted a public comment also in writing, because that is part of the record.
I am Allie and Michael New. We live at 15851 41st Street, right to the left there.
To the west, yeah.
Yep, Tony and Carol. I can't speak highly enough of these two and all that they have gone through to really try and follow all of the rules and make sure they're seeking the clearance that they need to do these things. It's unfortunate that there was miscommunication or misunderstandings of things, but truly I've been to this winery multiple times. We will have a path right through our yard to theirs. We walk over, and honestly, if I am out on the street when they have it, if I didn't see the cars parked in their parking space, I wouldn't even know it was open. It's quiet, it's relaxing, it's just a great family space to be at. I truly don't ever worry about the traffic on the street. I worry more about the four-wheelers and the dirt bikes, and have come into near head-on collisions with these four-wheelers and dirt bikes in the past, and know that they're not legally road ready, but the drivers behind the vehicles coming to these events are. I feel way safer with them on the road. I have been to the Sip and Shop that was mentioned. It is a great opportunity for local small businesses to come and meet each other and get their products out. I think, unfortunately, looking at this in two different perspectives, I can see the concern, but I also can definitely validate that Tony and Carol would not do anything willingly to harm the neighborhood that they have lived in for many years. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
Mm-hmm.
Go first.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Pam Price, and I live at 15597 41st Street in Becker. And just to let you know, we live at the very end of the cul-de-sac. We're not even on there. And at times, you can hear music. I take my dogs out to go potty, and there are times I have heard the music. And I have some more concerns and questions than other things. My first thing is, when we had the first meeting here at Sherburne, Carol described how she had to make the wine and how much % of local juice and stuff you had to have. Are you following that?
I 100% am, and the state comes and inspects me.
Do you have a license?
I 100% do, and I believe that I submitted that.
Okay, because when I go online to minnesota.gov, it doesn't show that you have a license. The only one that shows is Bailey Ray's.
It's actually hanging up on, it has to be hanging up so that it is visual, and it's hanging up right now.
It's in the, it's underneath.
I have it hanging up.
It's underneath the open air pavilion.
I actually have a picture of
So
it
you
on my
must
phone.
have gotten that after the first year?
We got that.
I don't remember the date.
Okay, because the first year I visited you, and when we went to pay, you told us we had to pay cash because you didn't have a license yet and you couldn't sell. And if we had to use a credit card, then you would charge us for a bottle of water, and then for the tip, we were supposed to put what the wine cost. And then secondly, I had two of my nieces there who were just 21 and 23, and they weren't carded. So I'm concerned about that, about the legality.
Ma'am.
I'm not going to talk anymore.
You can respond to
Sure.
Just, that was my observation. I just wanted to make sure that, because this is hearsay, one of her patrons, used to be friends, and also worked with her, said that she does not make her own wine, she doesn't grow her own grapes. Do you have grapes on your property? Because supposedly you take boxed wine and you flavor it. So I'm just wondering, does somebody come and check on her procedures and that she's following what she's supposed to do with the cup? That is my concern.
Thank you. Sir?
I'm Tim Price, same address, 15597 41st. We were like the fourth person to move into that neighborhood. And it was, from the beginning, extremely quiet neighborhood, residential neighborhood. In fact, the developer had a homeowners agreement that we were supposed to form after so many lots were sold, and it never came to fruition, but, I mean, you weren't even supposed to have pole barns on the property. There were no animals being allowed. The idea was, it was to be a residential neighborhood, quiet, and my concern is, why are we putting a commercial business in a residential neighborhood? It's just, to me, it makes no sense. This is not the place to be running a business in that neighborhood. I mean, so far, yeah, Tim Zachary lives across the street. We don't get the traffic, except for some of the four-wheelers and the kids coming down and cutting cookies on the cul-de-sac right outside our property, when that's where more noise comes from, so, and we're a quarter of a mile away from them, but yeah, once in a while you can hear the music. But the biggest concern is the fact of, why are we allowing businesses into what is obviously a residential neighborhood? Everybody's property in that neighborhood is on the property tax. I went through and looked at property tax statements. It's all right in the county accessible public records. Every one of them is homestead residential. Tony's is rated as commercial preferred. Why is there a commercial preferred rating in a residential neighborhood? And that's our concern. And it's going to be hearsay, but a few of our neighbors that couldn't be here tonight, out of town, had the same concerns. They is introducing a lot of traffic. I mean, we're talking, said 150 some odd people at these events with all these cars, all the trucks. We know from Santiago, our street is crumbling because it was not done correctly when it was originally put in. It's so thin, the street's falling apart as it is. And to introduce all this additional traffic onto that street is only gonna make that much worse. But like I said, our big concern is why are we allowing commercial business into a residential area?
And we did send a letter and an email too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Question for staff, that these are meets and bounds lots as opposed to plats?
Correct.
Does that have any bearing on this issue?
No, the legal description, you know, how these properties were created would not have a bearing on this IUP.
I see. Okay, thanks. Anybody else to speak on this issue?
My name is Lucas Anderson. My wife and I own the property directly adjoining their property to the south. I'd just like to say that I do support the Boulder Creek Wine Bar.
Address?
Oh, sorry, yes, 4428 165th Avenue Southeast, Becker. So I would just like to say I support all of the changes to the amendment, and I support Tony and Carol and everything they do. It is a great place for the community. I think it is an asset and an excellent small business. It is tough to, we never hear any noise. If me and my wife want to go to the wine bar, we have to check on Facebook to even see if they're open before we head over there because we can't tell. So I find no issue with any noise. I know they have plenty of parking. I've never seen a vehicle park on the street. As far as I'm concerned, they followed their permit. I mean, there was a notice of violation, but they followed everything else. And the reason we're here today is so that they can correct the violation. They're doing the right things to make sure that we can still follow the process. That's why we're here today. Yeah, I just think it's a really good asset to the community, and hopefully you guys see it the same way.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Shalene Sacre. My address is 15940 41st Street in Becker. I live across from the Zimmerman's Bar. I'm against the CUP amendment and against granting the IUP, and I'd like to ask the advisory board to recognize that for the 2 years that this has been in operation, they have not been in compliance every weekend. We as neighbors were misled. We were told that if they follow the 18 conditions of the CUP, the bar would maintain harmony with the neighbors and not become a nuisance to our family community. Never happened. Their site is not large enough to operate a bar without burdening the residential neighborhood, and now they're requesting special events, and they already hosted them multiple times. If you grant this, that's 2 more weekends of our summer that will have excessive traffic, live music, food trucks, and everything going on into our neighborhood that we don't need. The property does not contain 5 acres of tillable land for agricultural use. Instead, it includes a house, a large pond, a sizable shed used for Tony's landscaping and snow plowing business, which he operates year-round from this location. His employees of this business come and park in the property's parking lot. Now, before they even got the CUP, they've already went ahead and expanded. This expansion has increased noise levels, further impacting neighboring properties. Rather than expanding the bar, the Zimmermans should be required to obtain IUPs to legally operate Tony's landscaping and snow plowing business from this site. Additionally, the IUP application misrepresents his business shed as a barn. It's not a barn to serve agriculture purpose. It's a steel shed that's used for his farming, and labeling as a barn, it's misleading and doesn't align with the agriculture intent required for rezoning. A San Diego Town Board member suggested holding the special events at San Diego Park, which already allows alcohol sales. That'd be a great win-win. Support the local community without burdening our neighborhood with another 2 weeks of excessive noise and traffic. I've tried to be a good neighbor for 2 years. When they tell others that I've been in support of it, they are misleading my community. I've never been in favor of the bar. The CUP has already raised taxes for everybody, and if it's amended and an IUP granted, it will decrease our resale value. The traffic has caused further damage to our already deteriorating township roads, 41st Street and 161st Avenue. The Zimmermans are poor operators and have never fully complied with the conditions of the CUP, despite agreeing with them. They do what they want. Some people are just above the rules, I guess. There has been no accountability from the county. That makes them a liability to us. They've misrepresented their intentions to both Sherburne County and us neighbors. Okay, thank you. I've also submitted something to the county.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak on the issue?
Hi, my name's David Stans. I live at 1873 141st Avenue, Clear Lake, Minnesota. Like many of the other people here, I've been to the wine bar several times over the last 2 years. Feel like we should focus on the first item at hand. It seems like there's a lot of subjectivity going on here, but it's really, I believe this first item is these two special events. We were at both those special events. We supported the local businesses that were there. I think it was a great way for us to learn some of the local businesses in the community that we didn't know about. Like I said, we patronized them. They did a wonderful job. I think it's a very valuable asset that Tony and Carol bring to the community, that we're able to get out there, meet some of our neighbors. We live 1.5 miles, 2 miles away. And we've gotten to know so many more people in our community that we would not know otherwise. Both of us work like we bedroom communities, so we work St. Cloud, Minneapolis, different areas, and it allows us to get better together as a community, understand our businesses. And I think something that we all got to learn from COVID, however horrible it was, is that you got to support your local businesses and do that. And I think they do a great job of handling the community as a whole. So thank you.
Thank you. So, anyone else out there?
Oh, and then I did submit as well, I'm sorry, a letter.
Hello, my name is Laurel Trisco, and my husband is Andrew Trisco. We live across the street at 15913, or 15912 41st Street. We are in support of the Boulder Creek Wine Bar. The name of itself, you know, gives the connotation of a bar, but just that is not accurate. If we're going to be picky about words. We love the atmosphere when we go there. I have yet to meet Lucas, and I look forward to in the future at the wine bar. We are also know a lot of our other neighbors very well, who are also in support of this. My kids grow pumpkins as part of I'm speaking about the IUP at this point. My kids sell pumpkins at the special events. There's been some numbers that have been thrown around that have been said about 150 people at these events. That's very exaggerated. We are a vendor there, so I know that's also not an accurate number. My kids like to sell their pumpkins there, and there's other neighbors who sell their things there as well, and I look forward to hopefully doing that in the future. Tony is great about greeting guests when they come for both events, or the CUP and as part of the IUP. He walks across the street to my yard and will use his decimal meter to measure volume. It is never an excessive amount where it is bothersome to me and my family across the street. We have 2 young boys, and that is what I have to say about that. There's a lot of our neighbors that shoot guns and, you know, have four-wheelers, and blaring down the road, speeding. That is also can be a concern. So I just don't see this as being a concern, and I am in support of it, and I have, my husband have also provided a public record.
Thank you. anyone else out there who wants to speak on this? Anyone else wishes to speak? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this issue?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
What is the wishes from the board?
I have a couple of comments.
Yes, sir. Speak.
One of my concerns is the violation so far on what has happened in the last 2 years. And I have a hard time adjusting the IUP or the CUP in order to accommodate the violations. So,
Any other comments?
I have can I ask staff a question?
Sure.
Can I?
Of course. Of course.
Is it a yes or a no-no?
Of course. Yeah, I mean, it's discussion. We're here to assist in this process.
So, Mark, the comment was made that there was verbal permission granted to have the events which resulted in the violations. Can you speak to that?
So, somewhere maybe at the end of 2023, I did receive a call from Carol Zimmerman to discuss their operation. And the conversation kind of went from their conditional use permit. You know, I hadn't received any complaints at that time. They were interested in maybe taking things, providing food or looking at music, and a discussion about what would be required to do that. You know, an interim use permit, or CUP, conditions are stated. I try to advise public the best I can, kind of outline what the facts are, and then leave it up to them to make that decision. So verbal approval or authorization is not something I have the authority to do.
I didn't think so.
So the conversation with them at the time was, they were having success. I wasn't aware of any potential issues with the property at that time, nor was it, until August of 2024.
So the violations stand?
Until the violation came, and then we took our normal procedures that we discussed earlier.
Okay, then you have recommended conditions if approved. There was reference to the fact that they don't intend to have food trucks, but number 8, the use of food trucks, food and beverage vendors need to comply with Minnesota, yada, yada, yada.
Many of our special...
That just kind of boilerplate dropped in there?
A little bit, yeah.
Because that doesn't seem to fit.
And that's fair. It is a little bit of boilerplate. I mean, so we do have a handful of these. We try to maintain some consistency with adjustments based on the venue or the situation. So.
Because then I look up above and we look under 5C. They want to request to allow 51 vehicles. Well, if you're going to have a food truck or a beverage truck or a beverage vendor beyond themselves, that's also going to impact their parking space. Correct?
Yes.
And then is number 4, it says a sound level meter during the event to ensure compliance with Minnesota rule, et cetera. Permit holder will supply the county records of the noise. So is that done electronically?
Yes.
So they take a meter, you drop a pin as to where the location is, and then it feeds back to you?
Under that rule, no, so it's not alive. So under that state rule, it calls out the procedures. There's a 10-minute and 50-minute test. When it comes to those things, there's certain standards for noise levels. And that's what that state rule is referencing. The performance standards for doing a noise study.
It just feels a little bit like Fox in the Hen House, doing your own meters, so, okay.
Mr. Chair, one quick question I have for staff. One question that came up, comments were, it's listed as commercial preferred, and every other resident around there is listed as residential. Can you explain that?
So when a person, so it's commercial preferred, but it may have another assessment tied to it, likely single-family residential. And so when properties obtain CUPs or IEPs, that is filed with the auditor or county assessor's office, and the county assessor's office then taxes according to the use.
Okay,
So
all right.
most of our home businesses that we have in Sherburne County will have a commercial listing. So they're paying their share of commercial taxes associated with the use
Okay,
of the property.
thank you.
Any other
Mr.
comments or
Chair,
questions?
Mark, how many people have been there at the gatherings when they were in violation? Do we know that? Were they up to 150 or was it like 75? Or?
I don't know that. That's not information I have.
Okay, what are the recommendations of the board?
Well, I would have to agree with Steve. I struggle with the fact that there's been those types of violations. I know that there was a discussion, and I understand there might have been a misunderstanding, but there still were violations to the current CUP, and now they're asking for an IUP. And it's a little confusing. That's why I kind of, I've been skirting it all, because now you get into the CUP and they start talking about the ramifications of adding. Does anybody else follow that? So, but I have some significant difficulty with violations that have already occurred. So. And if it does move forward, I would really like to see this planning board definitely take number 8 off. I know it's boilerplate, but to remove that, because it's not your intent anyway, correct?
To have food during the sip and shop?
Correct.
Yeah,
That
no,
is correct.
or
So
music.
I find that as kind of like an open door there, so. Those are my comments.
Is there, Mr. Chair, is there a way that we could maybe reduce the number of visitors a little bit to accommodate it with a reduction? Because 150 seems a little bit high.
Well, we weren't asking for 150.
The 150 comes from the parking spaces that are available on the property right now. That was the calculation.
Okay.
And number 12, puts that question a little bit back in Planning Commission's hands.
I'm sorry but we were actually saying 70, because there's plenty parking for that.
Yep.
We have 60 seats, and that's just how many we've had prior to. And people don't want to stand, so they'll leave. And I will assure you that if you all agree on 70, and we have 71, you're gonna get a complaint. Because one person in our neighborhood watches. And so we would never allow more than that.
As it should be.
Mhm.
Well, once again, what are the wishes of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded.
Do we know what number 12 is? We filling in what number?
I would make a motion to have those 70 people. I mean,
70.
That seems to be a fair number with the amount of parking space. If they have 150 for, the 3 people per car, right? So I would say 70, and then you have more than an ample amount of parking.
So 70 people then would include vendors, correct? 70 people using the property would include vendors, correct?
The way the,
asking for
the way the
clarification.
condition, using the property at one time, it doesn't specify one way or the other.
So I'm
Using the
saying
property.
is,
Yes.
it's inclusive of visitors and vendors.
Yes.
And those that live there and work there.
People using the property, I'm not sure if the owners would be considered into the 70. That, but I do think that, using the property at one time, it's the way the condition is written, the board can choose to modify these conditions also. I know number 8 was thrown out there as a potential modification. So the board can, as they see fit, make recommendations to the county board for any kind of modification of these conditions they feel necessary.
Your motion to,
So who made the motion?
I did.
You did.
does that exclude item 8?
Yes, that would exclude item 8 as well.
Are you willing to add, using your property at one time regardless of their role in the event? Because that would include
number is
vendors.
this?
Right down here. Because then it wouldn't matter what their role is in the event. Are they the owners, are they vendors, are they
Oh, 70
participants?
You're saying 70 total.
Because that's what it implies, using a property at one time.
Is 70 gonna be something that's gonna work with? I mean, we don't wanna have you in violation again if it's just a couple more folks in it, would be my opinion anyways.
I mean, him and I are the only ones that live there. Our kids come sometimes, but I would think that like the people that live there would not, but we will make sure. If you say 70, we'll make sure that's what it is, so.
I'm open to either 70 or 75. It has
I think moving it to 75, if we're going to have the residents be inclusive in that number is appropriate.
I'd amend my motion for number 12 to be 75.
Yeah, and excluding item 8, so we've got
Excluding item 8.
15 conditions. Are we ready to do the findings?
Sounds good. Item number 1, that the interim use permit will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of properties in the immediate vicinity for purposes already permitted, nor substantially diminish or impair property values within the immediate vicinity. And so, as a motioner, yep, you respond to those questions.
Oh, good. Yes, the purpose use is not anticipated to diminish or impair values within the immediate area. There will be no more than 2 events in a year, and the applicant's proposed operation and the conditions of the interim use permit should mitigate potential impact on neighboring properties.
And just a reminder that the staff comments or staff's responses, you're welcome to change and modify to whatever you feel fit after the public hearing that's been aired here. Number 2, that the establishment of the interim use permit will not impede normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant properties for uses predominant in the area.
Yes, the use will not impede normal development of this property or neighboring properties. Neighboring properties to the north, west, and east have been developed for single-family housing.
Okay, that adequate utilities, access road, other necessary facilities have been or are being provided for.
Yes, adequate utilities, parking, and other necessary facilities are being provided for the proposed use.
Okay, that adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide sufficient off-street parking and loading space to provide for the proposed use.
Yes, the applicant has demonstrated they have enough parking spaces to accommodate the proposed number of people using the property.
And lastly, that adequate measures have been or will be taken to prevent or control offensive odors, fumes, dust, noise, and vibrations, so none of these will constitute a nuisance, and control lighted signs and other lights in such a manner that no disturbance to neighboring properties will result.
Yes. The IUP limits the occasional special events to no more than 2 a year, and with the conditions of approval, adequate measures will be taken to mitigate offensive noise, dust, and vibration.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Take a roll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
You want a roll call?
Better have a roll call.
Nay.
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 Aye.
Nay.
Motion failed.
The motion does not carry. So
So we needed another motion.
we need another motion to,
No.
what's the second motion?
Well, so if it fit, so.
You'd be
this is-
recommending denial in that case.
Correct.
Okay,
Make findings that are recommending denial.
We have a, we need a motion to deny then. Is that correct?
so we can generate findings on that.
Okay.
Based on the findings, I move that we make a motion to deny.
I'll second.
All right, so we're doing the same thing over.
Okay, we'll do
George, George, procedurally.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So we have to make findings again. So, number one, that interim use permit will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other properties in the immediate vicinity for purposes already permitted, nor substantially diminish or impair property values within the immediate vicinity.
No, the proposed use is not anticipated to diminish or impair values
Mr.
within the immediate area. There will be no more than 2 events in a year, and the applicant's proposed operation of the conditions of the interim use permit should mitigate potential impact on neighboring properties.
So it will. That's what you want, correct?
Well, it's now your findings. You have to make findings based, based on on the motion that's been made to deny this. So you have to make the findings that justify the denial.
Got it.
Because these findings were based on a yes, correct?
These findings were just staff's recommendations, so the board is, making findings. So the board needs to then articulate the reasoning for denial on each of these 5 conditions. Okay. Then we'll go to number 2, that the establishment of the interim use permit will not impede the normal and orderly development of surrounding vacant properties for uses predominant in the area.
No, the use will impede normal development of this property or neighboring properties. Neighboring properties to the north, west, and east have been developed for single-family housing.
Number 3, just to clarify, that adequate utilities, access road, drainage, other necessary facilities have been or are being provided for with this request?
Yes, adequate utilities, parking, and other necessary facilities are being provided for the proposed use.
That adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide sufficient off-street parking and loading?
Yes, and the applicant has demonstrated they have enough parking spaces to accommodate the proposed number of people using the property.
So then the last one, that adequate measures have been or will be taken to prevent or control offensive odors, dust, noise, fume, vibrations, so none of these will constitute a nuisance, and to control lighted signs and other lights in such a manner that no disturbance to neighboring properties will result.
No, the IUP limits the occasional special events to no more than 2 a year, and the conditions of approval. Adequate measures will be taken to mitigate offensive dust, noise, and vibration.
Mark, do we need to speak to number 1?
Yeah, so
So the proposed use is anticipated to diminish and impair values, correct?
And that's for the board to kind of discuss. So, I mean, these are the findings, and if you're going to vote in favor of the findings, you should be in support of what the finding is. So if
We
you,
should be able to restate the findings so that we
Absolutely.
can.
so it's your justification for one way or the other. So if you have a disagreement with the, kind of how the finding was responded to, the board should be discussing that.
Okay,
So the proposed use is anticipated to diminish and impair values within the needed area.
As
would
I
be
read
number
it,
one.
it's not anticipated to diminish property values and enjoyment. That's not the intention, that's not the anticipation, that's my interpretation.
Okay.
okay, a motion has been made and seconded to deny the interim use permit. All those in favor of the denial, state their,
You're in favor.
Nay.
Aye.
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 Okay. We'll proceed on with the next item. Is that,
Motion carries, and that recommendation will be passed on to the,
recommendation will be passed on to the county board, yep, as of, March 18th meeting. Next agenda item is once again Carol Zimmerman, property owner C. Vetter Dash Lane, and Anthony Zimmerman request a conditional use permit amendment to offer prepackaged food, increased capacity to 70, and live music on Saturday and Sunday. We'll pass it over to you.
okay. You see the board packet attachments A through J. San Diego Township, January 8th, 2025 meeting. Had approximately 80 people in attendance concerning the wine bar. We had mixed reviews, but it seemed like people attending the bar are in favor of. Were not residents or even neighbors. Much discussion at the San Diego Town Board moved to go with what Sherburne County Board of Commissioners decides. No other state agency or other comments were received. On May 16th, 2023, Sherburne County approved a CUP for farm-related business, small winery, with 18 conditions, board pack attachment I. To operate a farm winery per section 16, conditional uses, subpart 2.A3, business must fit the following standards. The applicant believed they fit within criteria B and C. The zoning ordinance provides a business is primarily farm-related to meet one of the following criterias. The proposal to operate a farm-related business, it was a unique request and is a unique request for the county, but the Planning Commission did recommend approval, and the county board did approve this request with 16 conditions. They believe would mitigate impacts on neighboring properties. Under state law, farm winery is a winery operated by an owner of a Minnesota farm producing table wine, spirits, fortified wines, grapes, juice, and other fruit-based or honey with majority ingredients grown or produced in Minnesota. To obtain a state license for farm winery, operators must be located on lands that are classified agricultural or zoned or under a conditional use permit. They are zoned agricultural, and they do have a conditional use permit, even though it's not agricultural land. In late 2024, a complaint was filed against Boulder Creek Wine Bar indicating it was not adhering to the conditions of their permit, specifically referencing issues with food, music, with live music, food, services, days and hours of operation. A search of the business website, bouldercreekwine.com, confirmed, along with Facebook postings, sip and shop events were held on June 1st, 2024 and September 21st, 2024. Description of the events on Facebook were annual shopping events where many vendors are selling various goods, hours listed 1 to 5. There were many postings on Facebook with live music and food truck services offered. On September 6, 2024, zoning staff issued a notice of violation to the applicant, informing that they were in violation of 4 conditions of their CUP, conditions 1, 2, 8, and 10. The applicant responded to the notice of violation, made some modifications to their final event for the season, and stated moving forward they were going to work to amend their CUP request and an interim use permit to allow occasional special events. The applicant has requested to amend their CUP for farm-related business, specifically to allow the following changes. Board packet attachment B. And these are the conditions that they're asking to modify. So we have the current condition is listed, letter A. Applicant's proposed modification is following sentence and then zoning staff's response to that. Just for your reference as we read through this. Current condition number 2, the CUP does not grant authority for the property to be utilized as a venue for occasional special events, rural tourism, weddings, or other similar uses. County ordinance, as those use, requires separate permits from the county. The applicant proposed to modify condition number 2 and would like to hold 2 events per year. These events would be Sip and Shop 2 times a year, one for Saturday in June, second Saturday in September. Events would be 1 to 5 and would invite local vendors, small businesses, set up booths on property in front of the bar in the grass. There'd be 10 to 15 vendors, and they would sell their products while the wine bar would be open for sale. It would not exceed the limits, capacity, and there would be no parking on the street. It's closely monitored. A map of the Sip and Shop is included in the application. Zoning staff does not recommend amending this condition, as it only requires the applicant to obtain separate permits for any use beyond the farm-related business. This condition does not prevent them from operating special events, just requires a separate permit that is requested, and it should say approved by the county. The next one that they're asking to amend, it's condition number 3. CUP does not grant authority to resell wine, cider, or others, including any other food products that are not produced on the property or not locally grown or agricultural commodities. Proposed modification by the applicant is Boulder Creek Wine Bar is requesting that we have a licensed food truck or vendors park in our parking area during open hours, Saturdays and Sundays, and we would like to be able to offer prepackaged food such as cheese and crackers and pretzels. Zoning staff does not have an objection to the request to offer prepackaged food or food trucks, provided the products utilizes locally grown or produced agricultural commodities. Letter C. There shall be no more than 40 people at the property at any given time. Proposed modification number 6. We would like to we'd like to increase people allowed up to 70. Our parking area is increased due to tree dying and Class 5 being placed in that area. Photos included due to the north parking area being close to our neighbors. To the east, 9 and 9, 8, 16, no, sorry, 8 to 16 foot spruce trees have been added. We have plans for adding another 9 trees in the spring. Zoning staff is concerned with the proposed increase in parking, number of people allowed on the property at any given time. Boulder Creek Wine Bar was granted CUP for farm-related business to support applicant's ability to make and sell wine connected to her license for farm winery, not to create a neighborhood bar. The business is located on land that is zoned agricultural, but is surrounded by residential uses. Within the county zoning ordinance, there is an interim use permit for rural tourism, which allows for larger operation, but this property is not eligible due to zoning restrictions and proximities to homes. The next condition that they're asking to modify is condition number 7. Customer parking must be limited to parking areas identified on the site plan. No parking is permitted on 41st Street. No more than 20 customer vehicles are permitted on site at any time. The applicant's proposed modification to condition number 7 is there are now 50 parking spaces. Parking will remain on the property of Boulder Creek Wine Bar, not on 41st Street. Zoning staff is aware the parking areas have already been improved, and we are not concerned with the increase in parking, as it will help ensure people looking to go to Boulder Creek Wine Bar are not waiting on the park or in public roads. Under their existing CUP, they are allowed 40 people on site at one time. The expanded parking area will help manage what they are already permitted. Condition number 10. No live or amplified music permitted on the property as part of the farm-related business during the hours of operation of the CP. Proposed modification by the applicant. We'd like to increase live music on Saturdays, Sunday afternoons. We close at 6 p.m. and would like to 1 to 2 person music group play for our customers as background music. Zoning staff does not object to the concept of live music, but it has concerns about potential impacts on neighboring landowners. Zoning staff will hold off on any kind of recommendations until public comments have been received. Number 9, the applicant has, so that's the extent of what they're asking to amend on this permit. Applicant has provided an updated operational plan to support their business amendment. Board packet is C, which includes dates of hours of operation, starting on Memorial Weekend, going through the last weekend in September, first and third weekends of the month, Saturday 12 to 6 p.m., and Sundays 12 to 5 p.m. Summary state summary of state and federal licenses, propose noise control, including soundproofing by adding 8 to 16-foot tall spruce trees between the new parking area and neighboring lot to the east. There are future plans to add 9 more spruce trees on the property. Neighborhood relations, the applicant plans to maintain open line of communications with their neighbors and will address concerns promptly and professionally. So on this request, we received 34 written comments related to the CUP proposed in the IUP. A copy of the written comments have been provided to the Planning Commission. And with that, staff is looking to Planning Advisory Commission, recommend to the county board. The county board may choose to approve, modify, deny the applicant's request to amend their CUP. Planning and zoning staff is requesting at the close of the public hearing that these amendments, that at the close of the public hearing, these amendments that the Planning Commission provided, these conditions are provided so they can provide any modifications necessary. Sorry, totally botched that.
So how do we handle this? Are we supposed to address each proposed amendment, or?
So at this point, you can ask me any questions related to kind of what's been presented, the board's packet, any kind of items. And at the end, the board can choose to just reject all out, everything they're requesting. The board can choose to accept some of the modifications but reject others. So yeah, you will probably have to kind of look at this, and it will be at the board's discretion if they choose to go through and address, or the motioner's discretion if they want to address all the specific conditions, or make an action one way or the other.
Now, this also involves a session of public comment, correct?
Yep, so yep, we'll have to open up a public hearing following the
Okay,
the
and
board's
all the
discussion.
information that we received is relevant, because they kind of cross over.
They do a little bit, yeah, that's that, yep.
It's like soup.
Well, I guess my confusion on this is that some of these items we've denied on the first one, and they're coming up again, as far as the number of people, food truck. I mean, that was mentioned in the first IUP, and we denied.
They'll have to respond to it in this.
So this is all
They have a conditional use permit on the property. They've requested to modify those conditions, and you're responding to their proposal to modify those conditions, regardless of what action was taken on the previous request.
How is the motion supposed to be handled? I mean, do we each amendment separately, or?
So the board may choose, after the public hearing, after the discussion, when it goes back to motioning, the board can make a motion to approve a request to modify the conditions as they've kind of specified. You could deny the request for the conditions, or you could choose to modify certain conditions.
Well, that sounds complicated.
I'm sorry, I don't really know a better way of doing that.
Yeah. Well,
Lots of
at
pieces.
any other questions for staff?
For clarity's sake, with the light outs, the changes, we still are dealing with 19 conditions.
19 would be the new condition, because if the board chose to, number 19, so they had 18 conditions, number 19 would be this CUP would replace their previous CUP. And the strikeouts are essentially what they're proposing to modify with their language underlined. So the board doesn't, the board will make a decision on if they agree with those conditions or not.
Okay. But
Your recommendations are prior to that.
But to the question, there's still 19, currently there are 19 existing conditions.
There are 18 conditions, and this one has 19, because if the board moves forward with this and recommends approval, we need a 19th condition, removing the old conditional use permit and putting this one in.
The previous was 18, the requested is 19.
Yes.
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure I
Yeah.
got that right.
Will the applicant please go to the podium?
We are Carol and Tony Zimmerman, 15913 41st Street, Becker.
Thank you.
Do you want us to just,
First of all,
Comment?
do you understand the 19 conditions, and are you willing to comply with them, I guess?
we understand completely, and we are willing to comply with whatever you choose.
And the amendments to the original. Yeah. Any questions from staff for the applicants?
None for me.
None?
No.
Okay, well, I guess that's it. Thank you.
Can we comment?
Yeah, you can certainly.
Okay.
It's a brand new it's a brand new
Okay.
public hearing.
So
Correct?
I want
Mark,
to
right?
assure you that, is that okay? Okay. I want to assure you that our first year, we did not break any of these conditional uses. Whether somebody says we did or we didn't, we did not. And it was only after our conversation and in our minds, we 100% thought that we could go ahead. We would have never, ever done any of them unless we thought that that was going to be an okay thing with you guys. My thought was to come here and do this again last year at this time, but I did not get that. So I was under the understanding that it was okay because we would have never went against the compliance of the conditional use permit because we know how valuable it is. And so we would definitely follow that compliance. Before I came here, we were licensed with the TTB, the FDA. We were licensed with the Department of Agriculture in 2 different departments with the retail and the production. That department, along with the health department, does regular visitations at our place. The retail will go down where the bar is and make sure that everything is right. The production department comes and will watch me make my wine to make sure that I am making it through compliance of theirs. So we've gone through a lot of layers before we actually got to the county because we kind of balanced the county and the state together. And then once, we got everybody agreeing, then that's when we went ahead and had our wine bar officially open. But we would have never, ever gone ahead and broken the conditions if we thought that that's what we were doing. So, I sincerely apologize for that last year. The first year, we didn't break any of the conditions. Last year, I will say we did break some, not what they said. Half of what they said was not true. I don't even understand some of the events that we had. I have no clue what they were talking about, but we wouldn't have done that. And again, whatever you guys decide, we will comply with, and I promise you that.
And just as a footnote, we're not above the law.
Yeah,
Thank
we don't
you.
think that.
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate it.
Hold on, Mr.
Yep.
Chair, may I?
Certainly.
In your recordings with the decibel meter, what are you looking to stay under? What decibel level are you?
Well, with the
hoping to-
state standard, I believe the state standard was like 0.50, something around that. And anything on and over that for an accumulated amount of time, like what Mark touched on, we weren't even close to that. So I didn't even mark it down because it wasn't even close to that. When a car drove by me or a 4-wheeler or something else right near me would spike to that level. But
Pardon me, but what I'm looking at is, at least my limited knowledge is industrial compliance. A level of 50 is acceptable in an industrial, even higher, but I'm just looking at something that I can associate with, and that would be how many decibels
I think it was
are you seeking to stay under? What's your maximum decibel?
whatever the state standard is for residential area.
We had asked Mark, I think,
Yeah, and we have
what it was,
We do
and
have
we
that
wrote
written
it down.
We have it written down.
And we actually, on a calendar where we document the approximate people that we have that day, we would write down what he would go out onto the road and what it was. And it was like, without cars going by, it was virtually nothing.
Without nothing, like birds singing and chirping, I mean, we were down at like the 20, between 20 and 25. A car would go by and it was up to 56 to 70. But that's a car going by at 12, 15 feet from me.
Okay.
But
And are you, again, what I think I hear you say is you're monitoring that decibel level at the north border of your,
out on the road.
out on the road?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And so what I'm hearing is typically it's below 50.
Yes.
If somebody heard music, they didn't hear it from us. Or it could have been on a random Tuesday afternoon when I'm at my garden and I have a speaker on. But no, that is not true, because we have people that are right beside us who are stating that they aren't hearing anything.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm just looking for a reference, and I've gotten what I asked for.
okay, is
Thank you.
there anything else?
I've got one
Okay.
brief question. There appears to be some structures right along your east property line on the adjoining property owners. Are those accessories to your operation?
No,
or-
not at all. It's purely just storage, and I have verbal permission from Mike Boughton to do that.
Okay.
I mean, if that would arise a problem, I've already worked it out with Mike, I would move those. It would only take me
Yeah,
an hour.
so
Yeah.
you're working with your neighbor on that?
Correct. And he does have a comment in favor in your packet, Michael Boughton.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
I have a question for you. I'm taking a look at so there's lots of documents up here. I'm taking a look at the old CUP, and then as we move through it, it's in bold, which I really appreciate that format. It says here Boulder Creek Bar would like to have live music, 1 or 2 people playing with a guitar or piano, 1 to 5, Saturday through Sunday. And then I look over here and it says our operations are until 6.
The music would stop prior to us closing, because musicians only play 3 or 4 hours. They don't play any longer than that.
Have to be sure that that is part
Yeah,
of the
so when the
event.
music stops, then we have an hour before the,
On Saturday.
on Saturday, and on Sunday, we close at 5 o'clock. So the music will always stop by 5 o'clock.
You know, I know it seems trivial, and maybe I am asking too much, I don't know. But it's 170 hours out of a year. There's 8,600 and some odd hours in a year. We're asking for 170 of those hours.
It's 10 weekends. That's it, every other, or the first and third, it is.
But that's what conditional use permits are for. It's to have a
Yes.
discussion of how that impacts people around you.
Mhm.
Anything else? We'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this issue may step up to the podium with your name and address, please.
My name is Tim Sockery, 15940 41st Street, Becker, Minnesota. Just to cover some COPs real quick, like, number 3 says the authority to sell or resell wine, including any food. This is the old CUP, not produced on the property. They're now requesting prepackaged food. Just to let you know, that's quite an open statement. That's anything in a grocery store, other than maybe some produce. No live amplified music is permitted on the property for farm-related business. The live amplified music was played on their opening day. See picture A. Remember, 1 month earlier, they stated they understood the CUP. Excessive noise, glare, or is this number 18, and other nuisance may be justification for the county to revoke the CUP. So instead of quiet weekends and the 170 hours they're talking about, now we have excessive noise, horns honking from people locking, unlocking their cars, loud conversation, cheering, clapping, and excessive traffic. The Zimmermans appear to be exercising CUP creep. This is where the applicants secure their CUP, violate nearly every condition, which we have not even listed all of them, and are now retroactively requesting an amendment for a CUP to align with their intended business plan all along. Someone needs to answer how the future non-compliance is going to be enforced. Again, this has never been answered. It must be monitored again it must be mentioned again that the county attorney's office is waiting for information from the planning and zoning department to possibly revoke the CUP or at least take civil court action. While patrons may express their approval of the bar, it's important to note the majority of these individuals do not reside on 41st or 161st Avenue. They do not live in our neighborhood, and therefore they do not experience the nuisance tax increase and land devaluation it creates. Also documented in the April 20th minute meetings, the CUP will not substantially diminish or impair the property values of immediate area, provided the applicant maintains compliance with their operation plans and conditions of the CUP. We have been directed that the amendment passes to take abatement action against Sherburne County Assessor's Office as it will decrease neighborhood land values. If the Zimmermans cannot adhere to existing condition, what justifies loosening the CUP? Self-policing of an alcohol business in a family residential neighborhood obviously hasn't worked. As you said, it's like the fox watching a hen house. Rather than rewarding the Zimmermans for violating the CUP from the first day of operation, why not follow what the ordinance states? Sherburne County Zoning Ordinance Section 18, if the applicant does not abide by the conditions set forth in the permit, the county has the right to either revoke the permit or hold another hearing to investigate and set additional conditions. Also under Section 18, trees are not going to stop honks from horns from honking, locking and unlock cars. It also says that we can have an installed of a non-transparent fence. We would like to propose to have a non-transparent fence all the way around the property. Thank you.
Thank you. We did have a discussion prior to the interim use permit application regarding enforcement policies, so your one comment there that there is none, but I think I'd have to disagree with. Any other comments out there? Sir?
Tim Price, we live at 15597 41st Street. So we're down at the end of the street. I have no ill wills against Tony and Connie. Tony is, I've always considered a friend. I mean, we've known Tony since the day he built his house there. I mean, we built before him, so we've known 24 years. So I would love to see their business, the winemaking business, sure, go ahead and succeed. But I guess I would have, well, let me back up one question. What constitutes a farm winery? How many acres do you have to be classified as a farm? I didn't see that anyplace in there. And the other point of that is they currently do not grow any grapes on their property. Everything is juices and whatever that they buy and then ferment and make their wine.
I think they mentioned they have a garden, their rhubarb, cranberries, I'm not sure what's all.
Yeah,
But they
just no
had
grapes.
a picture of.
We have grapes too.
A vineyard. They had pictures of the makings of a vineyard. I don't think it's been established yet, but.
Hasn't produced yet.
But I guess to go back to a point that I had made before was the fact that
Under the county ordinance, section 16, conditional uses, a business produces a product involves a process that uses locally grown or produced commodities. So that's what constitutes a.
yeah. So does the juice and everything she uses, does that come local or is that from out of state or?
Well, again, I think the state statute is kind of nebulous there. I believe they just say
Okay. It was a question.
Minnesota. So.
I had, that came up there with the farm winery classification. And I was just curious what constitutes number of acres to be classified as a farm.
I don't think that's quantified in the
Anywhere?
county ordinances.
Okay.
But they're zoned ag and it's a farm-related business in my mind anyhow.
Yeah, and which, like I said, I have no problems with them, making the wine, but, there's awful lot of flea markets, you know, Becker has flea markets every weekend where people come and sell their wares. They're not doing that business on their property in a residential area. And that's, again, for a few of us that live on the street, that is our biggest concern, is the increased amount of traffic and what it's gonna do to the neighborhood. People walking, riding bikes, you know, you're just adding that much more traffic into the neighborhood, which is residential.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on the issue?
Shalene Sockery, 15940 41st Street, across the street from them. I have to say again, they do not have enough property to run this in a residential neighborhood. You can hear the noise. It's a music going on. It's garbly. You can't hear it. Everything we've gotten is from their website. They aren't making anything up. My husband sent a text a summer ago to say the music was too loud. We never heard anything back. We have tried to be good neighbors. They just don't care about what the neighborhood is about. This is our family neighborhood, and you can't say it's not a bar because they're serving alcohol, okay? My neighbors and I walk every day, sometimes twice a day, and we have to schedule our walking when the bar is closed. Because we don't need to have somebody with too much alcohol run us over or have to get out of the way. I also have to be advocate for the kids in our neighborhood. Why does it have to start Friday at noon serving alcohol when there's kids getting off the bus at shared drop-off spots? That means they have to walk either across the street or down the street to their driveway. Okay, and I've seen this because I work at the school, so I also know it. Okay, I also have a personal note. I just feel that this is such an insult to our hardworking Sherburne County farmers. They do compliance reports, they do certification of their products. Why don't they have to? If they're gonna call it agriculture zoned, a farm-related business, they should have to do the same. They never have followed the rules from day one. She can shake her head all she wants, but it's true, okay? They do what they want. We had a town board member suggest wishing they had 40 acres somewhere. I agree with that. This site is not big enough. If you give them this, you're just rewarding them, and you're going to punish us tax-paying neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Pam Price, 15597 41st Street, Becker. Our big concern is a business in a residential area. We moved from a city to out in the country to have the quiet, to have the peace, not to have the traffic and the noise. Yes, we do get the stupid kids running their four-wheelers and stuff, and we have complained about that, and that might be another meeting. But my main concern is the accountability. Who is going to guard them, watch them, that they are following all these rules? Like I said, their first year that they had it, we had to pay cash because they didn't have the license, and that was straight from Carroll. Tony did tell me too. We sat down and Tony was telling me all about the process and stuff, and he did say that had he known that they had to go through all these hoops and stuff, he never would have started it. So my concern is, who's going to police them? It's not right for them to police themselves. Somebody else has to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
Allie New, 15851 41st Street, Becker, Minnesota. I just listening to all of these comments want to clarify that they are a winery that is open in the summer months only. So there aren't kids getting on and off the bus on Friday.
We have summer school.
Sorry. And they are very careful about their parking and allowing patrons to make sure they aren't overindulging. They aren't afraid to cut anybody off if they feel necessary. And they are always looking out for those that are sitting there and making sure that if they are engaging in beverages, do they also have somebody there to drive them? They're not looking to cause any harm. They are more careful than most bar owners that you would ever meet. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Michael New, 15851 41st Street Southeast. Neighbor directly to the west. And I first want to say that my neighbors must have better hearing than me, because if they can hear me at the end of the cul-de-sac, or if they can hear the music at the end of the cul-de-sac, that's pretty good, because I can't. And I'm on the west, and we spend all summer outside. Never have I been excuse me, never have I been disrupted by the music coming from the wine bar. Tony and Carol are responsible. They respect the neighbors. Tony has walked into my yard, used his decibel meter, checked. Like we talked about, never over 30 decibels. I guarantee you it's lower than that. I was also going to say that they are new business owners. They are still trying to figure out this. I know they had the original CUP and they had those conditions. They're still learning. I think we need to give them adequate time to learn how to run this business, how to make it profitable, and from what I can tell, it is profitable, and that's why they're requesting additional people, additional parking. I think it's great for the community to have this. It's a place to come together. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else wants to speak on this issue?
Lucas Anderson, 442 865th Avenue, Becker, Minnesota. My wife and I own the property directly to the south adjoining the winery. I just want to kind of bring it back to what we're actually here talking about today. We're not putting Tony and Carol on trial. We're just trying to modify their permit, and that's what you guys will be voting on. So if we just look at those three changes that they're asking to make, one, food, I don't see how that negatively affects anybody at all and how you could have well, that would be a bad thing. It would only increase the customer experience. I think that's pretty easy. We've proven that they have parking with the pictures to increase their number of guests, and multiple people, including myself, with directly adjoining property have had no issue with the noise, with the quiet live music, which stays quiet so people can have conversations and keep the peaceful atmosphere. So that's all I want to say is that we're just voting to amend their permit. We're not here to revoke what they already have. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
David Stans, 1873 141st Avenue, Clear Lake, Minnesota. I have been a resident of Santiago Township for, 28 years, and this is, like I stated before, just a wonderful addition to our community. They do a great job. There was a reference to a text by Mr. Sacre. I think we all agree, we're all work in a professional environment, that we used to exchange emails, texts. Things don't always come across the way they did. Maybe I'm semi-old, in the good old days when we actually talked face-to-face with people, as opposed to sending text, emails, and those types of things. Tony was at my house the day after that text. I believe it came about 2 in the morning, and I wouldn't have responded to that text either personally. So, because I don't think it was a professionally written text. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that wish to speak on this issue? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this issue? Okay.
I am Laurel Trisco. I live at 15912 41st Street. We live across the street. My husband and I are in favor of their requests that are being made for their CUP. Like I've pointed out before, I, have met neighbors at their winery, and I appreciate getting to know other people in my community as well. The noise has not been an issue for us and my family across the street, so I do not see that as a problem. I think, with their request for capacity, an increase in capacity as well is very reasonable for the accommodations and for what they have. So I'm in support of all of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this issue? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this issue? Anyone else wish to speak on this issue?
Move to close the public hearing.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any other questions for staff? I guess I'm a bit confused now. Do we need to discuss each proposed amendment individually, or how do we go about this?
So the board should respond to the applicant's request, so if you look at staff comments, starting on item number 8, and the applicant has specified, well, first we have current conditions, what the applicant proposed zoning response. I think it's appropriate to respond to their request in each of those. And, that someone feels that they can make a motion, that they feel that they understand these conditions and are okay modifying, rejecting, accepting, whatever path, they can make a motion as such if they want to go through.
Individual motions.
I think you can make a motion on the full item. So just to clarify, you could make a motion saying, okay, I'm going to recommend, approval with these modifications, and you reject their proposed modification to number 3. So my motion is, make a motion to approve, but I recommend, no modification in number 3 or number 7.
So we can make a comprehensive motion, correct?
Yes.
I can do that.
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion with one adjustment. This would be item number 6. The adjustment would be to move the number of people allowed from 70 to 75. And my motion would be to accept all of the 19 conditions as proposed in this new request for a CUP.
You're including number 2,
I'm including number 2.
the 2 events, special events?
I thought, no, thank you for that. I thought those were denied in the,
Well, it's still part of this
Thank you very much,
Yep.
Kathy. I would exclude the request number 2. And again, thank you for that.
What about amplified music? That's number 10.
Being that I've heard from other neighbors and also decibel readings that are below 50, I'm satisfied.
Now, as I understand it, now, if they do want to have a special event, they still have the option of applying to the county for a permit for that
We still have an
individual?
application pending, and the county board is going to make a decision on that. And yes, they could request that permit.
So what is the disposition of item 2, that nothing gets struck out there, or what's the?
I would eliminate item 2 as far as them adding the events as requested. We'll call them additional events.
So to clarify, we would not, the applicant is asking that we remove item number 2, and Mr. Abel, to make sure I'm clear, you do not want to remove that condition, that restriction on them.
Come again?
You do not want to see that condition amended. You want to leave that
In-
condition
in-
as
In
is.
my initial motion, I would go with, because these are not additional events, are they? They've had the sip and shop before,
But out of compliance.
but out of compliance.
They're out of compliance.
Okay,
So live music is out of compliance. 2 sip and shop events are out of compliance.
all right. Then my motion would eliminate the sip and shop, the 2 events,
Number 2.
but it would allow the live music, and it would change the item number 6 from 70 people to 75. That was, as we discussed earlier, to be inclusive, it helps put family members on the grounds. They are also on the grounds. Is that motion clear, Mr. Chair?
Can I make a comment?
Certainly.
I'm assuming that the reason for the 70 people, 75 people would be because of a special event? And we're going with the 75 people, but we're eliminating the special event.
No.
Well, you are, those 2 events
Correct.
is what you said, you were eliminating.
Okay.
And again, I don't know if the reason for 70 people would be there for a normal weekend without a special event.
Right, so customers in addition to vendors is what you're saying?
It's not even that.
That makes 70?
Yeah, I don't know if a weekend is a special enough to attract that many people.
That way, if they go over the 40 or whatever they have, they're not in compliance.
On any given weekend, and you're eliminating special events.
Yeah.
Okay. Not my motion, so.
The way it's laid out.
But thank you for asking.
Awesome, the way it's laid out.
I would like to see them be able to have the 2 events a year. Just looking at the map we have basically every east, west, and south. Those are the most impacted people that are gonna get impacted in that neighborhood. And every one of those 3 are in favor. One to the north is not, and then one next to that person is also in favor. So you have the majority of the people that are wrapped around this property that are most impacted that don't have a problem with it.
I'm sorry. The one to the north is for us. All 4 of our sides are for us. He had sent a letter, the guy to the north, but he's not north?
East.
To the east. To the north
Is,
would be these guys right here.
Mr. Sockery is to the
He's not
northeast.
right direct.
But, Mr. Chair, too, I am waffling. The 2 events, if we find out that through operating this year that we are out of compliance, then we have another visit. So I will restate my motion. That will include the 2 events, which are number 2. We will go from 70 to 75. Is that clear enough as a motion?
No, I'm not following that. But what are you proposing to do with item 2?
Well, then let me phrase it this way.
Okay.
My motion alters item number 6 from 70 to 75 people.
Yep.
And is inclusive of all the other conditions, 19 as requested.
then item number 2 would be unchanged, is that what you said?
Item, if I could just,
Accepted.
just a point of clarity, item number 2 says if they are going to hold a special event, they're required to obtain a separate permit.
Permit, yeah.
The board heard that one in the first go-around. That one was recommended for denial to county board.
Right.
So, you know, at this point, keeping that condition in there would still require them. So they asked to eliminate it. We're asking to keep it in there because it requires that additional permit.
And that additional permit would be applied for separately.
Yes.
Okay, that's my understanding anyway.
Is it Bruce's understanding?
Yes.
Okay.
So that was a motion.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. We will proceed with the findings. It's amendments to the conditional use permit.
Number 1, that the conditional use permit will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of properties in the immediate vicinity for purposes already permitted, nor substantially diminish or impair property values within the immediate area.
Yes, without the public hearing, county staff finds it inappropriate to respond to the first finding.
So you
that
need
was,
to,
yep, so you have to make your own finding on this.
My own finding on this is during the public hearing, there were pros and cons. I am moved by the people who are in support of this moving forward.
Okay. That the establishment of the conditional use permit will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding properties for uses predominant in the area.
All the adjacent lands to the north, west, and east are already developed for residential use, and the land to the south is assessed as rural vacant land. The establishment of this limited use will not impede development of vacant property to the south.
That adequate utilities, access road, drainage, and other necessary facilities have been or are being provided.
Yes, adequate utility, access, and drainage are provided for the proposed use.
Okay. Adequate measures have been taken or will be taken to provide sufficient off-street parking loading space to serve the proposed use.
Yes, the applicant demonstrated that there is sufficient parking on site for the proposed use.
And last, adequate measures have been or will be taken to prevent or control offensive odors, fumes, dust, noise, vibrations. None of these will constitute a nuisance, and to control lighted signs and other lights in such a manner that no disturbance to neighboring properties will result.
Yes, the conditions of this CUP, along with the limited days and hours of operation, should adequately mitigate offensive noise, dust, vibration, and lights on neighboring properties.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and the findings of facts read. We'll take a roll call from the board.
Aye.
Nay.
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 Aye.
Aye.
nay.
We got one. What was the count on that?
4-3.
4-3, no?
Or nay.
Or nay.
So where would we go from here?
Someone's gonna need to make another motion.
Robert's Rules of Order say you make another motion.
Either with alternative, conditions from the proposed amendments. So there could be additional changes to the proposed amendments that are being recommended, or, a recommendation to deny all of the amendments.
Any discussion for the board, or deny all of the amendments wholesale, or accept a few of them, or what?
You have that latitude.
You could make a motion that would nullify number 2, modification there, which is what we already denied earlier, and add in maybe 70 people on number 7. The
I think it's
county
number 6.
didn't have an issue, or number 6, I'm sorry, 7, the county staff didn't have an issue with. And number 10, you could add no amplified music. So you could do that to make it more palatable possibly for some of us who are sitting on the board.
Okay, is that a motion?
I will make a motion to retain the original CUP with the modification of number 6 to 60 people. Number 7 to stand as is, because I understand there are 50 parking spots, correct, Mark?
Yes, well,
Okay.
those parking spots were improved after the original CUP was issued.
Okay, thank you. And number 10, that music is allowed with no amplification. So that is my motion.
Can you clarify number 7 again for me?
I just want to, I brought up number 7 because I wanted to make sure that parking spots are actually there, not proposed, but exist. Correct?
That exists, yes.
Okay, so the clarification then would be, the motion is to retain the original CUP with a modification of number 6 and modification of number 10 to allow music that is not amplified.
And was there anything in relation to number 3?
Well, if we retain the original CUP, number.
Trying to make sure 3 was the requesting food truck vendors.
Oops, I missed that one.
No, I just want to make, I didn't hear any discussion on it, so I want to make sure we at least addressed it.
Sorry. I gotta look at your recommendations. Hang on. I would say retain as is. So that's my motion.
Okay.
Does that keep the parking at 20? Or are we going to increase that to allow for the additional people?
Number 7, he just clarified, they have now 50 parking spots.
So you're making it 50?
Correct, so I'm adhering to that.
And you're allowing food trucks?
Nope, I'm retaining the original.
The original, okay.
The only ones that I'm, in my motion that I'm talking about is 6, 7, and 10.
What was the number of people under number 6?
60.
Pardon? 60. Since there won't be number 2.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded with retaining condition number 2, the original, and retaining the original of condition number 3. Condition number 6 would increase the people allowed to 60. And then condition number 7 would, the modification would stand. There are now 50 parking
More
lots.
parking, yep.
Been moved and seconded, can we?
Wait, number 10 is
Number 10,
music
number
is
10,
allowed as long
okay.
as it is not
Oh, yeah.
amplified.
Okay, number 10. Not amplified.
Is that what you understand?
Yes.
Got it, okay.
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 Second, findings of fact.
That the conditional use permit will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of property in the immediate vicinity for purposes already permitted, nor substantially diminish or impair property values.
Retaining the original CUP will assure this with the modification of allowing 60 people in conjunction with more parking, and that music will be allowed as long as it is not amplified.
That the establishment of the conditional use permit will not impede normal and orderly development and improvements surrounding vacant properties for uses predominant in the area.
All the adjacent lands to the northwest and east are already developed for residential use, and the land to the south is assessed as rural vacant land. The establishment of this limited use will not impede development of vacant property to the south.
Okay. Adequate utilities, access road, drainage, and other necessary facilities have and are being provided.
Adequate utility, access, and drainage are provided for the purpose of this use.
Okay. The adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide sufficient off-street parking and loading spaces to serve the proposed use.
Yes, the applicant demonstrated there is sufficient parking on site for the proposed use, and they have added parking.
That adequate measures have been taken to prevent or control offensive odors, fumes, dust, noise, and vibrations, so none of these will constitute a nuisance, and control lighted signs and other lights such a manner that no disturbance to any properties will result.
Yes, a conditional use, the conditions of this CUP, along with the limited days and hours of operation, should adequately mitigate offensive noise, dust, vibration, and lighting as on neighboring properties.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, it's been moved second. The findings of fact have been stated. We'll have a roll call.
Aye.
Aye.
No.
No?
Aye.
Aye.
So the motion is approved.
Move forward to county board
Other
for,
recommendations go to the
Yeah,
board.
beg your pardon. yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Motion based on the 19 conditions with the amendments as stated. Sir?
I don't say a whole lot during these meetings. I'm just a liaison from the county board, but this is a very, very difficult situation. I applaud the commission and what they did here. As you can see, most of the motions, the seconds, were all done by different individuals. Lots of thought put into what these motions were. I applaud all the public hearing, everything like that. This will move to the county board now with what's in what has been demonstrated and will be in the public record. So all the emotion will be out of this. This is not easy. It's not taken lightly by the county board. I'm sure there will be plenty of discussion in regards to it. But again, I applaud everyone that's here tonight that did this. I applaud the public hearing part of it, everyone that spoke. It's a difficult situation, and it isn't over yet. It'll have to go before the county board on March 18th, and this is just a recommending body. I just want to remember that. This is a recommending body, that the county board will address this, and this will be brought to us without the emotion, with just the fact that's in the public record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else for the good of the cause? Proceed to agenda item number 3. And that is by proposal by Great Renovation LLC, property owner Thomas and Linda Roof. Request a conditional use permit for a personal storage structure, PID 10-00401-1240. Legal description, lots 4 and 7, block 12 of the revised plat of Eagle Lake Park. Section 6, Town 33, Range 27, 0.36 acres in the General Rural District and within the General Development Shoreland Overlay District of Eagle Lake. Mr. Glines.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you mentioned, Great Renovation LLC, property owner currently are Thomas and Linda Roof, are requesting a conditional use permit for a personal storage structure. As you can see, Big Lake Township had some discussion on it. Ultimately, they were, I'll have Mr. Abel go into a little more detail on this. They were against the personal storage structure being constructed on a vacant parcel where there are no firm plans or ability to construct a cabin or a residence on the parcel. The applicant is requesting to construct a 30 by 40 personal storage, which is the largest for this size lot. They did combine 2 parcels, which would have been required for sale or development by DNR standards. That has been combined, and it is officially on the mapping system as combined. Getting back to Big Lake Township's comments about the dwelling or a cabin, we've seen these quite a bit on parcels around lakes with substandard lots where it's not suitable for a residence on its own, let alone a personal storage structure or a residence. So in the ordinance, it does say that if it's large, the lot can accommodate it, that the size and location of the personal storage structure should not impede the placement of future home or primary and secondary septic systems. We typically see this on larger parcels that can accommodate it. We just had one in Palmer recently. So if the lot's large enough to accommodate it, we have to show that. This one is only 50 feet wide. We don't have a survey, so one of the conditions is that in order to get a building permit, they would have to get a survey. If the lot is, the county records show it's 50 feet, but if a survey shows it's less, then they would have to either reduce the size of the building or apply for a variance. Showing that it's 50 feet by county standards allowed them to move forward and demonstrate that a 30 by 40 could fit on there. But
Mitch,
other,
while you're on it, can I ask you a question right
Yes.
now? Would a lot agreement be sufficient?
not for this requirement. I think just doing a site inspection, I don't even know where they would even start looking for that. But that was a good question. But for this one, we would require it. And the applicant was in favor of doing that as well, because we don't even know where the pins would even, these are plats from 1930s, 40s. So, but the impervious surface with this proposed use and driveway would be 12%, 25% is the requirement. Other than that, the applicant is in the stand, is there, come on up.
Are there any questions from the board to the staff? None? Please proceed, sir.
All right, well, my name's Tim Taylor. I live in Blaine, Minnesota, 1820 125th Avenue Northeast, 55449. I was born and raised in Big Lake. I grew up on Eagle Lake. I'm looking for a storage unit, so, I have a boat, pretty nice boat, actually. So, you gotta have a place to store this stuff, when you live in the cities, there's just nothing there anymore. I'm getting older, I'm 62 years old, I might be.
Youngster.
I might be, here one day, maybe I can talk my wife into moving south for the winter and coming back up. It'd be nice to have a personal storage, so, I got the ATVs, the fishing boat. I got a couple legacy cars. My dad used to sell cars back in the day, so I got some antiques that are pretty old. I'll just put them in there. My kids want them when that day comes, great, and if they don't, they can just move them on. But I'm talking about today. I meet all the conditions that are required to build the property. I'm just kind of a black and white guy. If I meet the conditions, I'm not looking for an accessory building. I'm looking for personal storage, which is a kind of a different scenario. When I was at the township of Big Lake, they kept on trying to talk me into this extra lot, and I don't have access to the extra lot. Ms. Knutson represents the sellers, and I'm buying this lot. If it comes available, I'd be more than happy to purchase it. So when they said that, they wanted to see a house with the building, then that would be a different situation. It would be an accessory. So, like I said, I'm just black and white. When I saw the ad, I called Ms. Knutson up, I talked to her, got some background information on it, and then I validated it when I called the county, and then when I drafted up my conditional use permit, I fell within the parameters of everything that was explained to me, so that I would be in good standing and legal. I met all the conditions. So that kind of brings me in here today, and hopefully you guys approve it, so I can move on and build it.
Are there any questions from the board for the applicant?
I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
Usually do. I live in a development by Briggs Lake, and it was developed 70 years ago, and there was so many of these small lots. And we had umpteen lots that are sitting just with buckthorn on it, and nobody's able to use it. And Sherburne County changed the regulations for a personal storage unit. And we were able to, within a few years, we have 5 or 6 new sheds in that neighborhood, utilizing property that could not be used for anything else. Because I'd rather see a shed on a property than a house and another septic system to saturate the soil with you-know-what. So I'm all for these kind of improvements, and it makes sense to utilize this property and not have to wait until someone buys a half a dozen of these lots in order to build on them. So.
Thanks. And you're aware of the proposed 5 conditions?
As far as like the survey?
The applicant must obtain a building permit.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a licensed general contractor too. I've been contracting for close to 15 years. So, you know, I'm a homeowner, real estate agent, and a general contractor. Along with that, I teach school. I have a public education teacher for over 30 years.
I see.
We have high hopes for you.
I was retired at 55 and there's a shortage of tech ed teachers. So now I'm back in there teaching again.
Any other questions from the board, or from the membership?
Mr. Chair, no questions for our applicant or questions for the board. Just simply wanted to clarify the position of the whole board of Big Lake Township. These lots, yes, while they are individual lots, they are owned by the same owner, and it was a preference of Big Lakes Town Board for our applicant to obtain an adjoining lot and combine them to place a home with an accessory structure, so we don't wind up with these lots can be combined. And while there are ordinances written and things at the county level that address this, it was Big Lake Township's preference, and that's where it stands.
Can I speak on behalf of
Yep,
that?
because I have Ms. Knut, she represents the
That's actually.
sellers.
We haven't opened the public hearing yet.
Oh,
Soon.
okay. Can I respond to that?
I think we're done with the applicant, yeah.
Okay, well, Mr. Abel stated that, you know, they said that they own the lot to the west possibly, where the house is, on those 3 or 4 lots. Mr. Roof does not own that land. The lot on the right-hand side, he doesn't own that land either, and he says he doesn't even talk to the owners. He said he's been up there since like the 30s, and he says, I've never even met the people. They just pay the taxes. So when they say that he has access or he owns it and I can purchase it to adjoin it, it's not correct.
I agree with your comment. I'm saying that there's a lot adjacent, and it was our desire that you pursue that lot.
Well, it is. You gotta let the guy live.
Understood.
You know, like I said, when the
Understood.
opportunity's there, then all I can do is present myself.
Right, which you are.
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you.
There are no other questions or comments for the applicant. We'll open a public hearing. If you have anything to discuss on this issue, please come to the podium.
I am Bonnie Knudsen. I'm actually here representing Tom and Linda Roof. Do you need my personal address? 1022 West River Street, Monticello. So I am with Edina Realty. I do have this property listed. Tom and Linda could not be here. They're on a cruise for 3 weeks. But I did want to clarify. So both the property to the right and to the left is not owned by Tom and Linda. They own the property across the road. And then they also own, if you see, so it'd be to the east, so 3 lots to the east where there's actually already a personal storage structure, right there on the corner.
Yeah.
So they own those 2 lots as well. So when they built that personal storage structure, the CUP was not required. So they were able to just get a permit. They did not have to combine those 2 lots, and they were able to build that personal storage structure. So the only other lots that they own were these 2, which then as part of the CUP process, they did combine them. So as you see, it is already completed. So it was our understanding, again, it's 50 feet wide, there's really nothing else that can go there. Nobody can put a house on there. When you brought up Buckthorn, it's all that's on there. I mean, when you talk to Tom, he said he's owned this property since the 1930s. He's probably walked on it like 2 or 3 times. So it's an eyesore. I think it would be a benefit to be able to get it cleared for a personal storage structure. But again, Tom and Linda are kind of also in that point of, if we can't do this, then what's the point of it? You know, there's really no other use for it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
I understand the township's position, because I would, you know, there was a lot of discussion on our end as far as, do we want to have a neighborhood of nothing but sheds? That was duly taken. But in the long run, we
I get it.
decided, not me, we. But I understand that the township tries to have a vision for their township. And a lot of times that vision doesn't include sheds.
Well stated.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this issue? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this issue? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this issue?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
What-
just have a question of clarification. So really, with the width of it, even though it's got some nice depth, there's nothing that can go on there but a storage shed of some sort?
As platted, I think you're correct.
Okay.
Without a
Because there's
variance.
lots of little pieces in there.
There's a lot of little pieces in there.
Wow. Didn't know that existed.
Kind of common around lakes.
Yes, those older plats, yes, for sure.
These lots
Yeah.
over here are .14.
What are the wishes of the board?
0.14.
How many acres?
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to approve the CUP with the 5 recommended conditions.
I'll second.
We will proceed with the findings of fact.
All right. Number 1, that the conditional use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity of the purposes already permitted, nor substantially diminish and impair property values within the immediate vicinity.
Yes, the proposed use is a personal storage structure. It is not anticipated to diminish or impair values within the immediate area.
Number 2, that the establishment of the conditional use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area.
Yes, the proposed use will be used as a personal storage building. Most of the surrounding properties are developed with garages or residence.
Number 3, that adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities have been or are being provided.
Yes, the applicant is not requesting additional utilities beyond what a normal residence would require.
That adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide sufficient off-street parking and loading space to serve the proposed use.
Yes, the applicant has sufficient parking space to accommodate the proposed use. There might be some short-term headaches as construction starts.
And number 5, that adequate measures have been or will be taken to prevent or control offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, and vibrations, so that none of these will constitute a nuisance, and to control lighted signs and other lights in such a manner that no disturbance to neighboring properties will result.
Yes, it is not anticipated to cause offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, and vibration to the immediate area. It will be used as a personal garage.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and second, and findings of fact stated. What is,
I have a question.
ma'am?
You said in here that it's under, it will be under survey to see if it is, so then it will simply, you'll take that, if it's less than 50, you'll take that percentage and pull back the width of the building so that you still get the impervious surface? Is that what I understand?
The impervious surface is not an issue. It'll just be if the lot, right now it's a 30-foot
Correct.
wide garage proposed, 10 on each side.
So if it's less than 50, that will shrink.
They'll either need to apply for a variance for that same building or reduce the width of the building to meet those setbacks.
This is very typical around lakes.
Cross your fingers, it's 50 feet.
There's all kinds of them all over the place. 50-foot lots.
With that, let's have a vote.
There's all kinds of them around.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Nay.
Motion is passed. The item will be brought up at the March 18th board. Is probably a good idea to be in attendance, county board meeting, so. Thank you.
That's it.
Okay, item number 4 is what? That's the proposed amendment to the ordinance. I lost my sheet. There it is. Amendment to Sherburne County zoning ordinance, amendment to section 18, administration and enforcement, subdivision 3.2, creation and membership for the Board of Adjustment to include one member of the Board of Adjustment that is also a member of the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we are proposing to amend Section 18, Administration and Enforcement, Subdivision 3.2. Basically, we are following in line of state statute that one member of the Board of Adjustment must also be on the Planning Commission. Right now, we have it where, as the ordinance reads, that, let me get it, that the Board of Adjustments, such board for the Board of Adjustment shall consist of at least 7 members, of which at least 2 are members of the Planning Commission. We are just proposing to amend it to 1 is a member of the Planning Advisory Commission.
Any comments or questions of the staff?
Mr. Chair,
Sir?
surprise, surprise. I'm opposed to this amendment. I'm that one guy that's on the Board of Adjustments in this commission. And I find that the experience pool of people that we're drawing from does not help with the Board of Adjustments. We get people from all over the county that don't have a background in zoning, in ordinances, in public speaking, such that they don't participate in the board. And it's puts a burden on the rest. We have a 7-person board. We have 4 people currently that are doing all the talking. And 3 of those people, well, actually 4 of us are on township boards. The other 3 are, let's just say, at large. I don't feel that we're getting adequate training. And I've been on the Board of Adjustments for, I don't know, 8-10 years. And I take it very seriously. It's a hard board to be on. And you need to participate. And we're not getting that out of people that don't have the experience that this board has, plus the boards of all the townships. So for that reason, I would recommend that we leave it as is. And I understand why we're looking at it, but TS.
That's it, thank you. I would concur. I think the Planning Commission looks at reviewing ordinances and what have you. The Board of Adjustment looks at implementing those. And I think we need the wisdom of both boards, on both boards, so I would suggest we leave it at 2.
At one time, when we were a 5-person board, there were 4 people that were on both boards. And the 5th one was on a township board. And all were active participants in the decisions that the Board of Adjustments did.
Is it difficult to fill those spots?
Yes.
It is,
It takes some recruiting.
yes. And I don't know if we're getting much of a response from paper advertisement as we are from word of mouth and polling people that we want to see.
So it is difficult to obtain members for the Board of Adjustment. This really comes back down to that fact that currently we have one representative, from the Planning Commission on the Board of Adjustment. We no longer have 2. State statute only requires us to have 1. So that's what the rules were before, and we're trying to go back to what it was. So our basis for this is looking to return to consistency with what the state rule, what the state statute calls out, and to also ensure that our board can continue to function in compliance with the ordinance.
And I fully expect and assume that even if this board gives a unfavorable comment to the commission, that they will bring it down to 1 anyway. That's my feeling, because they have to.
Mr. Chair,
Sir?
I believe this was a discussion in which we entered into a couple of years ago.
Oh, they wanted to get rid of all of us.
That's the discussion. And since the Board of Adjustment deals with township issues, we felt strongly that it should be made up of township representatives. At that point in time, there was an attempt to bring in, basically people that are coming in from incorporated areas, cities, to vote on township issues. And I think it was largely felt that was improper. I feel that way today. It's improper. So I support having at least 2. I don't want to see it go down to 1. I agree with Mr. Mules.
Any other comments?
And let me make it clear, like I said, I fully expect this to be down to 1. There's no doubt in my mind, because we have to, otherwise we're gonna have a problem. But we need to have a commitment by zoning and by the county commissioners to fill that board with experienced people.
I'll just point out he was looking directly at me at that point.
Well, it does make a difference.
It does.
Really makes a difference. I mean, take what we did tonight. There, and I appreciate your comment. A lot of discussion and a lot of give and take. And if you really don't know what you're looking at, or you don't have any experience, it's hard to be part of those difficult conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more difficult than what we do. At least when I was on it, it was
Oh, it's
icky.
it usually isn't very pleasant.
I say it's icky.
That's a technical term that I,
Hey, I'm a preschool teacher.
Can I use that?
Icky's a good term.
All right.
It's a good
Better
term.
get deposed anyway.
Not used behind the dais very often, but it's good.
Yucky.
All for a chicken barn.
Well, and that's another thing. And, right, wrong, or indifferent, there wasn't much discussion by some people that on their vote.
State, yeah, just with that, we have been legally.
But I have no problem with people voting no. But don't just, there should be some sort of a discussion, even on this board. If you're gonna vote no, let's hear what
For the record.
let's hear what the problem is. So.
Thanks.
Well, if there's no other comments at this time, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone out there wishing to speak on this issue?
We only got one left.
You wanna just?
Say it 3 times.
You don't have to say it 3 times.
Your audience just let you off the hook.
I would make a motion to close the public hearing
I'll
based on the audience response.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. Is there, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So, at this time, we're looking for a motion to recommend to the county board whether or not to amend the Sherburne County zoning ordinance relative to creation of the Board of Adjustment.
I tell you what, I'm gonna make a motion. Can you believe it? I'm gonna make a motion not to recommend approval to the county board based on the fact that we need more experienced people on the Board of Adjustment.
I'll second.
Second by, okay.
Well, we could,
I know.
ah, darn.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Opposed, same sign. Oh, okay. Motion is passed recommend to the county board not to change the current structure of the Board of Adjustment. And our last item is a discussion on accessory dwelling units by Mr. Glines, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, we can go through this quickly. I've sent a memo in the draft ordinance to all the townships, so you should be seeing those at your meetings. We can just go through a quick discussion here. Here's some timeline of events that we are doing these proposals. So January 28th, we sent them all to the townships. We did a workshop with the county board on February 4th. We're doing our discussion today. Public hearing will be March 20th. Means we will have all the township comments back, and then April 15th, hoping for the final action from county board. So this was identified as a high priority in the 2040 comp plan. We've gotten some general good feedback on this. And basically what the accessory dwelling unit is just allowing a second dwelling on a parcel, either detached, attached, above a garage, because right now the ordinance states only one dwelling per parcel. So this would give some flexibility. We're still working on the performance standards. It'll be different for the larger parcels in the ag district. We're more looking at the platted subdivisions, what kind of performance standards we want for sizes. So we will hope, once we hear back from the townships, Big Lake, Orac, Livonia, those such that have more subdivisions, we can kind of work on that performance standard. But other than that, I mean, to get in, we're kind of going backwards, but getting into what an accessory dwelling unit is, it's a self-contained residential unit with its own living room, kitchen, and bathroom. ADUs are permanent installations that are legally part of a larger property that includes a standard single-family house. This housing is designed to be flexible to meet family needs and can generate rental income for the homeowners. ADUs can sometimes be referred to as carriage or coach houses, accessory apartments, backyard cottages, secondary dwelling units, granny flats, mother-in-law suites, second suites, or garden apartments, so quite a few names. These units may be located inside the principal building or on a lot, or maybe located in a detached accessory on the same parcel. So here's just some kind of good diagrams from AARP on the accessory dwelling units. We don't know what kind we would get. I think detached is going to be more what is in demand and what we are getting inquiries about. And so the benefits from it are, again, public frequently contacts us regarding it. At least once a week, we get an inquiry. More since it's been to the townships. People are reaching out. Increase housing affordability, create a wider range of housing options, enable seniors to stay near family as they age, allow more efficient use of existing housing stock. We do have a housing shortage. It was a housing study showed how many, like 2,500 more housing units within the next few years in Sherburne County. And then provide a mixed housing options that responds to changing family needs in smaller households. So that's just a quick overview. I know we're running long on time, so.
So we provided the draft ordinance to the planning commission. This is just for your discussion. So really just comes down to your townships are receiving the draft ordinance. I would ask that you take a little time, look at this ordinance, think how this applies in your township, in your communities. What does this look like? And in March, be prepared to have a discussion about this ordinance and any kind of changes that you think need to occur. So we'll send probably updated ordinance once we get additional township comments back. But that's the draft ordinance that we're going to be going forward, with in some shape or form, and we'll be looking for your feedback on it, your expertise.
It was actually received very well when we discussed it.
Right.
And I made sure that I said that it's probably not going to apply to any property around the lake.
Yeah, it'll be difficult on the smaller
Lot
lots.
size.
Because you can't have any variances or any.
0.36 impervious surface.
Yeah. So.
And put them on those 20-foot lots?
Yeah. It does address septic system, or ISTS, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's.
That was good work on that. That's something we need.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of positive feedback, so we're excited to move forward. And again, it's the residents that are reaching out like once, twice a week. I mean, it's amazing. And a lot of the inquiries are not for smaller 2.5 acre platted lots. They're for larger parcels. San Diego and Palmer and Clear Lake, they have 40 acres and they want another house. So it makes sense.
Makes sense, yeah.
That's that.
Mr. Gray, did you have any comments? Okay. Any other
I've heard it.
comments? Motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.